Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers have more information about the seller and the business to help them make a buying decision further down the road. Today, we'll be talking about an Amazon KDP business for sale, and I've actually got the seller with me today. So welcome to the show, Craig, and how are you doing?
Hi, Vinny. Yeah, very good. Good to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm really looking forward to talking about your business today. Just before we dive deeper in, let me just give our listeners a very brief summary of your business. So today's listing is an Amazon KDP business that was created in October 2016 in the books niche. The average monthly revenue for the business is $2,562. And it makes an average of $2,473 per month in net profit. The assets included in the sale are the Amazon Kindle publishing account with 33 KDP and physical books and 36 audiobooks, SOPs, contact information for writing agencies, freelancer contracts, an ACX account, and Ingram Spark account. You can head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing 53560 to learn more about the business. And if you want to start your due diligence, just remember to unlock the listing if you're interested in purchasing this asset. So Craig, that's just a very high level overview of your business, but let's find out a bit more about yourself. Can you share with me what your background is in building or running online businesses?
Sure. I have quite an eclectic background in terms of my working career. I studied in the UK and grew up there, but I quickly moved to Australia and Singapore the latter end of 2008. So I've always been fairly, I would say, nomadic in that sense. And although I was working for companies in those locations, I was always trying to build something in the background for myself. Initially, that was trading the financial markets, but I quickly realized that I wanted to create something which was a bit more passive and kind of diversified myself from my trading activities. So around 2016, maybe a little bit earlier than that, I tried my hand at a number of businesses, including affiliate marketing. I tried drop shipping on Shopify, and I could never really get them to the level that I wanted to in terms of a revenue or profit standpoint. I always felt like I was chasing the next fad, and my marketing campaigns, my advertising campaigns would kind of quickly fizzle out. So I kind of switched gears in 2016 after a friend of mine was mentioning something about publishing books on Amazon. And originally I dismissed it because I thought that just sounds a bit weird. It sounded a bit quirky. And after a number of exposures to this kind of business, I looked at a course, a quite popular course at the time in the publishing space, and I decided I would give it a go. So I went ahead and purchased it, and I thought it was quite a nice way of building an online income because I'm very much into doing the work up front and then trying to reap the rewards from at some point or like indefinitely into the future. So it very much appealed to me to create some books because I could create them and put in the work up front, and then I could have that digital real estate online for quite some time. It's kind of like creating high quality YouTube videos, I imagine. But myself and my personality is more suited to kind of writing and editing, even though I didn't write the vast majority of the content, which we'll probably get into at some point. But that was my kind of reasoning for setting up the KDP or the Amazon publishing business. So I spent about 4 years building the business and publishing the books, and that kind of brings us today.
For sure, no, it definitely sounds like you do have quite the eclectic background. Like you say, you've probably one of the earliest adapters of the digital nomadic lifestyle based on, like you said, the various ventures you tried out as well throughout the years. It's pretty interesting as well, you're mentioning you went from a doubter to a believer after you saw the proof in the pudding when you saw the profits and how it ran and business model and stuff, which is a great little story there. So you shared with me about how, you came up with the idea to start KDP business in this model in particular. Can you share with me briefly, how does the business make money?
Good question. So initially, when I was introduced to the business, somebody was saying that you should produce children's books in the children's book niche because they sell very well, and you have to get like an animator to do the animations, and they're very simple in terms of the wording. But what I gravitated towards more so was kind of the non-fiction angle, because I was very interested in various topics and niches that you could write books on. So essentially, you just pick a niche or a topic that you are well versed in, and you either write the books yourself or you get them outsourced and you can edit them yourself, and you simply upload them to KDP, or now you can upload them to ACX as well, which is the back end to audible.com, and the books will literally sell organically through Amazon's various marketplaces. So it's a very kind of do A and you get B kind of result, which I liked about it because it was very systematic as opposed to the convoluted marketing campaigns that I was trying to run for the dropshipping business, for example. So it's very much a kind of plug and play system once you know the methodology to publishing. So that's what gravitated me towards it. And yeah, that's what I think is the case for many people. It's kind of, I wouldn't say the easiest way to make money online, because you still have to produce very high quality content for it to sell. And there's more competition now than, say, in 2013, 14, when KDP was first come onto the scene. But it's definitely a very easy way for somebody who hasn't made any money online before to transition into that and to make maybe their first dollar online. Because, as you say, it's a weird experience initially. You go from trading your time for dollars, and I was making money online via the internet, via my trading accounts, but I was still actively having to do the work or be present to make that capital. Whereas now I had these digital assets that kind of sold while I was sleeping, essentially.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The sort of not quite passive nature, because, it's still a business and there's still some work to be done, but it's definitely more hands off than, say, trading stocks and watching the markets and things. Because as you were alluding to before, you discovered that if you do A, which is upload the books as Amazon asks you to, and as long as you're not breaching terms of conditions and stuff, then sort of E happens, and it sort of like magically happens somehow, which is great. You touched on that the books are in the children's sort of niche, and you touched on just now, that it was basically because it was kind of profitable. Is that mainly the reason why you chose to write books in that kind of niche?
So I didn't actually go ahead and produce books in the children's niche. That was initially what was introduced to me as a way of doing the business, but I never felt comfortable doing that. I didn't really want to mess around with trying to get animators and things, because there's a whole new level of factors that you need to take into consideration, like the quality of the animations, the pictures and things. So I actually left it for several months before I realized that you could produce books in like the non-fiction niches. So I don't actually produce books in the children's niche. I produce books for like young adults in the non-fiction space. I have a various number of pen names, but there's two main ones in kind of self-help, kind of psychology niches, and one that touches on kind of a diet and fitness niche a little bit.
Gotcha. Apologies, that's my bad. I heard children and suddenly my ears perked up because I've got a toddler myself. So if there's anything to do with children, I'm like, oh, better pay attention. So mainly sort of in the young adults, I guess, in various categories suitable for young adults. That makes sense. I mean, that you scale the business to, a definitely significant size. Our listeners will be wondering though, why you're selling right now instead of staying with the business or growing it.
Sure. There's a couple of reasons, essentially. One is that I'm no longer working on the business actively myself. I've gone back into my first love, as it was, into trading the markets. and that takes pretty much 100% of my time. So currently the books are just sitting there. While they make great passive income, it kind of seems a shame to me for them just to be sitting there and nobody to be working on it. And secondly, if I did sell the business, I could parlay that cash into my endeavours, which I'm currently working on. So it's not the end of the world either way if I keep it and keep the passive income. But as I say, it would be nice to see some cash for that 4 years body of work, maybe for somebody who's got the time and the passion to continue producing content and writing to kind of pick it up.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's normal for people who, like, as you said, have a first love. As many people do, stumble into this industry, create a successful and profitable business, but then sort of want to go back to exploring the original projects and original passions. So, yeah, it makes sense what you're doing, selling to raise up more capital to accelerate your growth in your other ventures. We'll explore about the back end of what it's like to run your business in a moment. As you were building this business, is there anything that you learned that you think you'd apply to future sites or businesses if you ever got back into the space?
I would say, if you can, to all possible, is to create evergreen content. By that I mean subjects that are kind of not faddy, they don't come in and out of fashion, and you're not kind of chasing trends or kind of seasonal tendencies. People tend to get into these kind of businesses and they create, say, T-shirts or something for Halloween or Christmas or something, and they have very big fluctuations in their revenue. So what I found was producing content which was kind of evergreen across the year was a good strategy, because it kind of smoothened that equity curve of your revenue. So that would be the main thing, just to produce very high quality content as well, which kind of seems obvious, but it's very much a prevalent point in terms of Amazon, because they're very much focused on the customer experience. So they don't want their customers to have like a bad experience with them at all. And as long as you stay within their terms of service and the way that they kind of want things done, then you should be good. But yeah, always focusing on high quality and evergreen content where possible.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice right there. Because I think there's always the temptation, especially with content-based businesses, to focus on quantity over quality. But like you said, yeah, Amazon especially, there's a big focus on, well, e-commerce in general as well. There's a focus on customer experience, and it reflects on all parties, if not just one, but a string of customers aren't happy with the product. So yeah, it definitely pays dividends to make sure that the quality is good. As you were learning more about KDP, the business model, and selling on Amazon, were there any communities or resources that just really helped you skill up and get up to speed?
Sure. There was a popular publishing course that I took at the time, which really helped me along, because they had a very active Facebook group with kind of publishers at all levels, but they were very good at answering your questions, especially for the newbie at the time. But I was also fortunate enough to kind of form a little breakaway group of 4 or 5 guys who were on the same level, and we helped each other out in terms of using the same designers for our books and certain things. So kind of smooth the process initially, but I think you'll always find your way or your methodology once you've started any business. You kind of take advice from people and groups, but you'll always tend to kind of gravitate to what you prefer, your kind of psychology resonates with. And there's a number of YouTube channels now that have popped up in the publishing space. I think there's a couple of twins, they're called the Mickelson twins, who brought out a popular Audible course, who I know are very good, and I've got some great information, certainly for the audio side, and in terms of building a brand as well around your books, and a very good authority in terms of your pen name. So that would be the one I would suggest to take a look at now.
Yeah, that's a great shout. Were there any software or tools that you just found really helpful to help you grow the business as you first started off?
I used some software called KDP, I think it's called, and essentially a ranking tool which assesses the bestseller rank of books on any page, on any listing page on Amazon. So no secret, when you do your research, you need to research if a topic or a keyword is profitable, and you need some various tools to help you kind of decipher that. And that KDP was a good help initially in my keyword research. And then I would say I used a piece of software called KDP Rocket, which is another keyword piece of software which allows you to attain like many keywords like from a parent keyword in terms of running, say, AMS ads, or kind of finding additional ideas to write for keywords in your subtitle, for instance. So that was a good one. There's various other tools like HTML description websites which help you kind of word and structure your descriptions a bit better. And there's various courses to help you like improve your copywriting and in that sense. So you've just got to kind of dig yourself in there into the Facebook groups online, and they will kind of point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's great advice. I just asked you about what works for you as you were building the business, but I guess on the other side of the fence, was there anything that you tried that didn't really give you the ROI that you were hoping for?
Good question. I would say initially there wasn't anything that didn't work. I was perhaps quite lucky. Maybe it was a consequence of just writing high quality content, doing the keyword research very well. So initially everything was absolutely fine. As I say, it was a very A to B process. I would produce a high quality book under a very popular keyword and it would sell organically. I did experiment with some different types of cover designs, and that's one thing you need to get right is the cover is very much like the selling point of your book. When they say don't judge a book by its cover, that's terrible advice because people absolutely do. And you need to make sure you get that correct. And you're building a pen name, that the cover designs are very similar, or they're very congruent across the whole series. So people can tell your books or that pen names. I would say I had a couple of mishaps with that and then I just changed it. But apart from that, I didn't have any major setbacks.
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. Totally with you as well about the age-old idiom, I suppose you call it. It seems to have, like, the meaning of it seems to have way outgrown its original literal meaning, right? Because obviously people use that when they're referring to judging each other as human beings. But I completely with you, and I'm guilty as charged as well. I will book down if, like I said, I don't feel the cover accurately reflects or gives off a good impression that it's going to be a bit of a banger of a book. So I'm with you on that. Yeah. What advice would you give to our listeners who might be new to this industry or interested in getting into KDP? What advice would you say you would give yourself when you first started?
Firstly, I would just say not to overthink things and just kind of get your feet wet. If you know what I mean, you just have an idea of what you want to publish in if you're going to go into the publishing world. And you have to have a base understanding of the subject matter, in my opinion, because the last thing you want to do is to try and produce content and get it ghostwritten by a company or a writer and not be able to at least kind of skim through it and make sure the quality is there. But again, you can overthink it. So pick something that you're interested in and that you wouldn't mind editing yourself if it come to it. And yeah, just crack on and you'll know very quickly if you've hit something which is going to be profitable. I mean, if you've done your keyword research correctly, then it will be. It would just be a matter of how profitable. But you can certainly make up some ground by structuring the book and the chapters in certain ways to kind of more closely reflect the readers in that niche, if that makes sense.
No, for sure. I think that's solid advice. Definitely just a case of just get going sometimes. Try not to overthink what you're going to publish and what niche and stuff. Like you say, probably best to have some vested interest in what you're going to be writing in. But yeah, sort of just pick yourself up and get going and give it a go. Doesn't sound. Let me ask you, because you were saying before about your previous business endeavors throughout the years, you said that you weren't really seeing some of the ROI and reaching the scales based on the marketing efforts. With this business in particular, what do you do in marketing right now?
I currently don't do any marketing on the Amazon side. It's kind of a very good and bad thing at the same time with Amazon. As I mentioned earlier, they have so much organic traffic, high quality traffic with everybody's credit cards and stuff already online. It's very easy to get into the habit of just producing things on Amazon and letting them sell. That was certainly the case with my business initially. The books were selling so well is that I didn't have the inclination to, say, fire up the Facebook ads on them. I did have a little go producing the AMS ads, but I was spending so much time with other aspects of the business, like writing and editing, that it was kind of unnecessary. But I think now if I was going to go back in and to kind of resurrect my activities on the business, I would certainly run AMS ads to the top 5 or 6 books, because that would certainly increase their sales and revenue. But it does take a little bit of kind of skills and practice to know how to set up the campaigns and to kind of tweak them in terms of what's profitable in terms of the keywords and so forth. So to answer the question, yeah, I'd never used any outside third-party marketing. I'd traditionally run Facebook ads to my dropshipping stuff, but I find that it doesn't work so well directing traffic to Amazon via Facebook. Maybe it does for the FBA stuff, but for the publishing world, it was better to stay kind of on their native platform on the AMS side. So that is certainly something somebody could pick up if they were building their own publishing business now, and something I would do now if I was actively still publishing.
Yeah, definitely makes sense, for sure. I guess just because it sounds like the marketing is basically hands off right now. So I guess in terms of your day-to-day or even weekly upkeep, what are some of the things that you do typically?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much a passive activity now for me. I only really check in every few days just to see how the sales are going, just to make sure there isn't anything crazy that's happened in my accounts and in the space. But it's very much passive. As I say, it's kind of the books have been written and they've been cemented into their listings on KDP and ACX, so they sell very well regardless. I mean, at some points I will jump in and I will try to help pick up a book and market it a bit in terms of distributing it into like Facebook groups or kind of reader review groups. There's certain strategies you can use to help kind of boost the sales a bit, especially on ACX now, who kind of encourage you to distribute your book to friends and family to read and to review if they like it. So apart from that, I don't really do anything actively on the business. I'm certainly not writing books anymore or getting them produced. I stopped doing that a little over a year ago. So that is the main. Once I moved into what I'm doing now, it was just a case of that takes 100% of my time. So I can't do the stuff that helped build me the business. But now I just do just some small things to tweak it and maintain it.
Yeah, makes sense for sure. I mean, if you did stay with the business, Craig, what would you say are some of the ways you would think about expanding it?
Sure. So number one, I would run AMS ads to the top 5 or 6 books, because that would certainly boost their revenue. I would continue publishing on the 2 main pen names that are there, because they already have quite good authority on Amazon and KDP and ACX. I would very much consider translating the books into Spanish, because I know from other publishers in the space and friends, they've had very good success with translating their best-selling books into Spanish and perhaps even German. I know the Spanish avenue is the definitely profitable activity, but with the German market slightly less. But I would certainly look to translate my top-selling books, because the content is already written there. I would have to pay a translator to translate the manuscripts, but that's certainly another way what I would increase the revenue from the business.
No, that makes sense. As you're aware yourself, all businesses have risk involved. What would you say are some of the inherent risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I would say spending a lot of time initially producing content without doing your research up front. So the last thing you want to do is produce a bunch of books or get them outsourced and spend a few $1,000s getting them produced, and they not make any revenue or very little revenue, and you're very disappointed then and deflated with the process. So I would say doing your research up front is a key point, and also just staying within Amazon's guidelines, because if you're playing in their arena, you have to play by their rules, and the last thing you want to do is get in trouble and get your account in any kind of strife. So, which 99% of people will be fine. As long as you're just not doing anything crazy, you should be fine.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. Like you say, play by their rules since you're selling on their marketplace. So, I mean, last few questions from me then. How much support are you offering buyers?
I'm happy to speak to these guys if they want to speak with me and ask me the process. I mean, obviously in the buyer or the selling process, I can very articulately take them through the process. But if they need to speak to me like a month after purchasing, that's fine. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom or a Skype and answer any questions. As I say, the business doesn't actually require much from me at this point. It would just be helping somebody to kind of grease those cogs again of producing the content and maybe where to best to get the books produced or what cover designers to use. I'm happy to do that for like a month or so if somebody needs it. I mean, ideally, I would imagine whoever purchases it may have an existing publishing business or has some idea of the process. So yeah, I'm happy to help people out on that front.
Sounds great. Are you willing to commit to a non-compete?
Yes, for sure. I have absolutely no intent to kind of produce another business in this area. I'm 100% committed to what I'm doing now, so there's no chance I'm going to be producing books of any sort in the near future.
Sounds great. Are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
Yes, for sure, as long as it kind of works for both parties. I mean, having a full cash buyout would be the best option, but if somebody has an option which they think is viable, then yeah, I'm certainly open to it.
Fantastic. I guess last question from me. If you put yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why would you say this is a business that's worth buying?
Because I would say Amazon is going to be the only game in town in 10 years, maybe even now. Now, that's obviously kind of hyperbole, but I think if you want to make some good revenue online, Amazon is the way to go, unless you have a very good skill set in terms of running ads to your own site and generating traffic. And it's kind of, again, it's building those digital assets which can remain online for you and earn that passive income. As you mentioned earlier, nothing is completely passive. Everything takes some maintenance. But if you were to purchase a business, say a publishing business such as this one, you would have those digital assets there, which I'm confident would make some good revenue for several years, 5, maybe even 10 years, considering the positions that are listed on, especially within ACX. And I would say if you're going to produce more content, then that would be something to keep in mind, is that you can do the work up front. And as long as it's high quality, it's going to stick on Amazon and it's going to sell well. So that's what I would suggest to somebody. It kind of suits my personality as well, writing and editing. So if that's your cup of tea, then I would certainly suggest this is a business to look into.
Yeah, no, that's great. Is there anything you'd like to share that you think I might have missed during the interview?
I don't think so. Again, it's just publishing on Amazon is not what it used to be, say, 5 years ago. Everything evolves. So you can't maybe expect to just pick up the game straight away and kind of make thousands of dollars from having no experience. But I would say that's the case with anything. It just takes a month or two, maybe 6 weeks to learn the processes. But once you get it, again, it's a very A to B system. So I find it very appealing and I find it a good use of time, but I can't think of anything specific that we haven't covered which I could add.
No, that's fantastic. Well, Craig, thank you so much for joining me on today's podcast episode, and I really hope that your business gets acquired by the right buyer in the near future.
Me too. It's good to speak to you, Vinny.
Same here. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing has already been sold, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for listing number 53560. If you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about the business. So until next time, enjoy your digital journey.